Well, the TCRs have been tucked back into their sheds and we roll out the gods of thunder, the big bangers of Australian motorsport, the DE8 Performance National Sports Sedans. Darren Smith here right alongside me from Auto Action, Gary O'Brien, and we have got cars on their formation lap coming up to line up behind the Hyundai i30 safety car for their parade lap and ultimately rolling start. Welcome, Gaz.
Thanks, Daz. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you had a great day's motor racing, starting with production cars this morning and then getting into Porsches before that, and now into the DE8 Performance Sports Sedans. Small number of cars, but what a quality grid.
Absolutely got the fastest cars in the country. I guess you'd have to say, minus Thomas Randall in the sub here this afternoon. Tony Ricciardello will have his hands full with Jordan Caruso in car number 4 right alongside him. A very familiar sight in Australian national level sports sedans. These two cars, the Alfa and the Audi, Italy's finest shape and the Germans' finest shape. Then behind, we've got a couple of American muscle cars, the Camaro of Shane Bradford right alongside the Queenslander, Phil Crompton. Watch for car number 12. He will be rapid in this last race of the weekend. He's been waiting all weekend for this final 10-lapper. Let's see how the Mustang goes. For Landau Signs, it is the BMW of Shane Woodman. Had some troubles yesterday. They've got the car up and boogieing again this afternoon, right alongside the remaining Monaro of Colin Smith. And then we go back to Wadley, Warren Wadley in the TA2 car. Michael Robinson not taking any further part after a head gasket yesterday afternoon. They think it's a head gasket. They haven't done a whole lot of investigating work, though. They did have temperature issues in qualifying, and then by partway through the race yesterday afternoon, he noticed that the temperature started to skyrocket, and they hope that they've done no further terminal damage to that power plant, because let's face it, that car, just before it did the head gasket, seemed to be going faster than it ever had before.
It did. It almost got into a P3 situation in the first race, got very close, and unfortunately just got tucked in behind Warren Wedley's lap car at the wrong moment, and there was just the slightest of touch, and it sort of put him out of contention then to snaffle third position, end up in fifth position. But the things to watch, I think, here, we're going to see a new lap record. Certainly Ricciardello should be up for the job. Caruso, we know, set a lap record in the last race at the previous round at the Bend. And the other thing is the two Trans Am spec cars, one built by Riley Scott in the late 90s, that's the Camaro, and the Mustang, which is built locally by Phil Crompton some 10 years or so later.
And a magnificent build quality too. Every time I walk through the pits, I stop and have a look at just the exost system on Phil's car. It is an absolute
It's the most pronounced thing about it, isn't it?
It is an absolute masterpiece. If you're into mandrel bends and nice welding, get down and have a look at the Mustang at some stage. Let's enjoy watching this car go around on its home track. He'll be starting off the second row of the grid into P4. Tony Ricciardello has had a very busy 3 weeks since coming across the line at Tailem Bend, and they went straight into a rebuild program basically as the car left the track. Jordan Caruso for Auto Union Motorsport, driving for John Gourlay here in this championship this year, the Audi A4. Shane Bradford for Aston Air in that Hot Wheels type of livery, Chevy Camaro. Phil Crompton for Datafin engine tuning in the TA Ford Mustang. Shane Woodman in the BMW M3 GTR, the safety car. The Hyundai i30 safety car travels away from the field, and let's hope we don't go into any ANCAP safety car period and have to see that car out on track. Tony Ricciardello has done this a few times, and he will absolutely play the game off the start here. He knows the strengths and the weaknesses of the Audi, and he knows the strengths and weaknesses of his own car. So he will be using it to his distinct advantage, because it is his opportunity to lead the field to the pace up to the green flag. They're bringing them right up to the line here this weekend, and away we go. If you like your race cars with 700 plus horsepower, squash your face up against the fence and have a good look at the DE8 Performance National Sports Sedan races. Tony Ricciardello just manages to sail into the lead as they go through turn 1 side by side out in front.
Yeah, Caruso in second, Bradford third, then right behind him are Crompton and Woodman in their particular cars, followed again closely by Smith. Wadley heading out the back of the field, and we know he is no competition for these cars, not really a sports sedan as such, but making up the numbers, and that's always a good thing. In the meantime, getting away out in front is Tony Ricciardello. I'm expecting Caruso to get quicker as the laps unfold. He'll just be finding his feet with this car. He's only had a couple of runs in it, coming from Excel Racing into a 700 plus horsepower Audi.
Don't worry about that plume of smoke coming out of the back of Tony Ricciardello's car on back off and on gear change. It's a engine richening program as we just watch a lock-up off the back of Bradford's car, the Aston Air Camaro, sitting in P3 there. They're running the new ELF unleaded racing fuel. Avgas no longer allowed in Australian circuit racing. Confederation of Australian Motorsport complying with the national rules there. So start of this year, no more Avgas. It's been the happy juice for sports sedans for decades now. Becoming responsible citizens now, going to the unleaded. It's just a tune aspect, and most of these cars are still chasing the tune. They're spending big hours on dynos to try and get the tune back to where they need to, and they will get there. Talking to the guys at Race Fuels that are supplying that ELF to Tony, and they're working hard within those two operations to make sure that Tony has the exact tune that they do need. When you've been running the same fuel for so many years as these cars do, getting back on that tune, there's that dirty sort of that smoke coming up the back of the car. It's just a little bit of safety on the injection.
Yeah, Crompton gets right up on the back of Bradford down at turn 3. Bradford's been battling with pads for this weekend. They've had trouble getting the pads they like, so they've had to make a bit of a compromise. We've seen that on the opening laps when heat's not in the car, that they had an issue where it locked up. He seems to have got it sorted this time around, and not far behind him are Crompton and Woodman, making a four-way battle in behind. In the meantime, Tony Ricciardello 2.7 seconds out in front. Caruso in second. Hasn't broken into the nines as yet, but he will. He did. He got into eights yesterday. Crompton right on the back, having a look at Bradford as they go for it. Turn 2, gets up the inside, gets that spot away. 5.5 litres of Ford versus 6 litres of Chev. The beauty about having less cubic capacity in the Ford is that it's less weight, it sits lower in the car, a finer balance. He said it's a softer combination. It means it doesn't spin the tyres as much out of the corners as what the 6 litre cars do.
He set that move up right back at the exit of turn 6, and exactly what you just said, Gary. Slips alongside there, got the better drive off the corner, slotted into the air gap in behind that Camaro, and then when he saw the opportunity on the run up to 2, just jumped on it, and he really did set that up about half a kilometre or even more, a kilometre of racetrack prior to that actually reaching that corner. Tony Ricciardello driving the wheels off this Alpha, as he does every time he gets in it. You know with Tony that he just leaves no stone unturned. A 108.94, 108.94. Thomas Randall's lap record is a 107.32. We're a fair way off it. Have a look at Bradford now. He's using that cubic inch advantage in a straight line just to stay with the Mustang at the moment. But Phil Crompton has got that car absolutely running on rails through turn 1 and 2. The number 12 is doing exactly what its driver is asking.
Bradford's got a great run out of turn 2 on this occasion. He will line up the Mustang down the back straight. As you can see, there's not a lot of difference between the pair of them. As a matter of fact, there's absolutely nothing between it, and that's because of the lighter weight of the Ford engine. It's just giving him a little bit better traction. I dare say Bradford's getting some wheel spin out of the corners.
One of the greatest shots in Australian sports sedan racing is that tail end shot out of turn 3. The big wide tyres underneath the Hancooks just struggling for grip as they apply that 700 plus horsepower to run up to turn 3 here, connecting this double apex left-hander for 4, left-hander for 5, trying to link them up as Ricciardello comes to the line again. It's 108.0. He's still 0.7 of a second away from setting a new lap record. Jordan Caruso now out after him. He's not been able to break into the 8s yet, but he's sort of following Tony Ricciardello 1 lap behind. And as we've seen over the 2 previous races, is that he can close in on Ricciardello right towards the end of the race.
Yeah, he just did a 9.3 on that lap. We've seen an 8 from him previously. If you weren't here yesterday, there was 2 races for these cars, and Crompton and Bradford had a great dice. Woodman unfortunately had a suspension failure in practice on Friday, which meant that coming down to this corner, and as a matter of fact, and lucky to pull it up without going into the tyres or what have you. So they spent a bit of time fixing that, missed qualifying. And then, of course, we've seen Colin Smith in the second race yesterday spear off at turn 1 and have to make up all the ground that he lost out of them as a result of that.
Colin Smith currently down in 6th place. Here's our race leader, car number 5. They are preparing the heat gun to peel that number off this car. They duly want to get the number 1 back on the side of the Alpha. And I'm using poetic justice here, because I can tell you the Riccadellos don't put anything ahead of getting a result in the very next race. It's how they do it. It's one race win at a time. They go to every track each time to win races. And championships tend to come their way.
At the moment, if they stay where they are, Ricciardello wins the round on 135 points. Caruso's second on 126. Bradford is third at the moment on 113, but only 1 point in front of Phil Crompton. He won't want Shane Woodman to get past him. If that happens, then Phil Crompton picks up third.
And in the championship hunt at the moment, it is Tony Ricciardello on 248 points. Coming into this round, that's all increased already because he's had 2 wins. And Stephen Tomasi in second. Then it is Jordan Caruso in third. Jordan will gain on Stephen Tomasi, but the big thing is that Ricciardello will start to slip away from the opposition in the actual title point score.
It will be a better round at round 4 for the DEA Performance National Sports Sedan Series. It's on at Sydney Motorsport Park on Father's Day weekend. And of course, all those New South Wales competitors who are this weekend racing in the state championship will be joining this field. So if you're around Sydney or you're watching from Sydney, make sure you get out to Master Blast on that weekend and have a good look at these cars.
And if you're not, come to Winton for the Shannons Nationals that exact same weekend. We'll look forward to seeing everybody there.
That's where all you Victorians can go to that one.
Yeah, so that will be where it's at, getting on board with TCR and of course the V8 Sleuth Touring Car Classic on that weekend as part of the Shannons Nationals round at Winton. But we have got a serious DEA Sports Sedan battle going on here for 3rd and 4th in the race. Bradford does not want to see this Ford drive away from him, and ranging up in the background there is Shane Woodman, starting to bring that BMW to life as we see our race leader Tony Ricciardello getting through and lapping Warren Wadley out of the back of this field in his TA2, which are a spectacular sight in their own field. With 20 of those cars, they are absolutely awesome.
Yeah, a lot of innovation going on with the BMW at the moment. They're had a rebuild on this car not so long back. And they've had some pretty handy drivers in it. John Bow did some time in it.
Crompton getting a little bit of smoke coming out on heavy acceleration there. That won't be anything to do with the tune. That looked to be a little bit blue there. So let's hope that the Mustang is not lacking in performance. That could actually be some sort of differential leak, the way that's sort of pluming around like that. It's not on acceleration at all. It's more of an oil leak from a gearbox or a differential or something like that, running a traditional type of drivetrain in that car as opposed to our race leader running the mid-mount with the transaxle. The Mustang has the engine, gearbox, tail shaft and differential type setup.
That's leading 2 cars, both have transaxles. The next 4 cars all run traditional 9-inch Ford diff. Seems to be bulletproof. You very rarely break one of them.
I think most of them are strange diffs as well, not weird strange, but strange as in the brand. They're the big strong differentials that some of the earlier floor-pan supercars type of things ran. As Tony Ricciardello comes to the line again. We've got 2 laps remaining. It feels as though we only just started the race 9 minutes ago. In fact, we only did just start the race. So 10 laps. He lapped pretty quickly in the DEA Performance Sports Sedans.
Caruso just down to an 8.7, so he's broken into the 8s. He's 7/10 off Ricciardello's fastest time, and Ricciardello did a 7.7 in qualifying, so we know what sort of performance that car's got. But the big thing you always got to remember, Bradford having a bit of a lock-up, pitching that right front wheel going through turn 1. And he doesn't want to do what Cole Smith did yesterday afternoon and spear off there. That will cost him 3rd spot in the race. And what a comeback for this particular car. It was rolled at the bend, not during the race, mind you, but being towed back to the pits. Just an unfortunate accident. And they've had to do a massive amount of rebuild panels, of course, and get the roof straightened out.
Some great work by both Bradford and the Ricciardellos as well in between these 2 races. The Bradford car, of course, as you just mentioned, Tony got some had to do some fairly heavy panel work to get it back together, whereas the Ricciardello car, everything you can't see has basically been rebuilt. If you can see it, it's red or it's yellow or it's wheels. They haven't rebuilt them, but it's engine, driveline has had a big spotlight on it. And they've done a lot of travelling over the last 3 weeks. This is Shane Woodman, previous Victorian Championship winner, in this car. It's an evolution ago of this car. It's certainly changed a fair bit since then. Plumes of smoke coming out of the Bradford car on upshift.
Yeah, on the final lap, fortunately, so hopefully he can bring it home. Caruso went quicker on that last lap, an 8.5, so he hasn't narrowed the gap because Ricciardello is actually on a fast one this time, so maybe
Have a look at this.
Whoa.
This is coming alive on the last lap of the weekend for the DEA Sports Sedans, and Woodman looks to the inside now and does it. There's quite a lot of smoke now coming out of the back of Bradford's car, increasingly so. That's going to be some sort of mechanical failure that's occurring there with that particular outfit.
And it'll cost him third for the meeting as well.
To the line, and it will be Tony Ricciardello to take another DEA Performance National Sports Sedan round. Shane Bradford goes up in smoke, heading down towards turn 4. Second to the line, Jordan Caruso. Fastest lap of the race to Tony Ricciardello with a 108.041. The Audi managing a 108.5, so that's a second off what is Thomas Randall's lap record in the Audi, and half a second off in the Alpha of Tony Ricciardello. Here comes Phil Cropton, coming to take third place in the DEA Performance, taking his rightful spot on the podium in his local round. And Shane Woodman, what a fantastic result, coming home in fourth place. Just reward for some very, very hard work for Liam and the crew down there in the paddock from Riverside Racing that put this car together so very, very well. Colin Smith coming to the line, taking out sixth place. Warren Wadley seventh there as we look at the official results for 9.167 seconds. Tony Ricciardello beats Jordan Caruso in the John Gourlay Audi. Phil Crompton next, some 28 seconds line astern there. Then Shane Woodman, welcome to fourth place, Shane, in the Landau Science BMW M3 GTR. Shane Bradford, well, ailing to the line there in the Camaro. He gets there eventually. Then we have Colin Smith. Here is the cars just winding down. That's that Alpha, the famous Alpha out of Western Australia. And looks beautiful indeed, Gary. One of the most magnificent cars in Australian motorsport.
10 championships to that combination. And as we can see, the Shane Bradford car pulled up just after the line. There's obviously a drama with that car. Here we go, highlights of this race. Off the start, and it was Ricciardello who led the way into turn 1 ahead of Caruso. Side by side, the two Trans Am cars. They battled for quite a few laps until Phil Crompton put this move on Shane Bradford through turn 2 to wrestle away third position, and on his way to third overall, because we'll see later that Bradford had that problem.
Here's the BMW, big lunge, there's the problem. Smoke starting to pour from the Bradford car. Let's hope we can get that car recovered without it ending up on its roof here this afternoon, as this is the run to the line. Shane Woodman ultimately driving away. Here is Tony Ricciardello dealing out a masterclass to all that want to learn in sports sedans. He takes another win in the DEA Performance National Sports Sedan Series. What a great result, as we will be back at Queensland Raceway in just a few moments. We'll have prototypes on the menu.